What I'm about to tell you is my window of opportunity tiers in the NFL. Who should expect to win a Super Bowl? Who should expect to suck? Who should expect to maybe make the playoffs? That's what's coming your way. So, my first tier here, it's my largest tier, okay? The window is locked shut. These teams have no chance whatsoever at winning a Super Bowl. None. No chance of winning a Super Bowl within the next 2 or 3 years, I might even add. Okay, so look, you're going to have your this tier not too hard to figure out. For example, the Panthers. I think you understand and know that they have no chance of winning a Super Bowl this year or next year, and probably not even the year after. And the hard thing about understanding the Panthers is I don't know how good Bryce Young is. I don't think you know either. Okay, but what I do know about the Panthers is that the rest of the guys around him are terrible. There is a major talent deficit in that building. And because of that, it's hard to know whether or not Bryce Young's good. And they brought in a new head coach. And it's going to be hard to know if he can coach because this Panthers roster is horrendously bad. It's the worst in the NFL. And I don't really think it's close, quite frankly. So the Panthers, yeah, that Super Bowl window is locked shut. Next, the Broncos. Locked shut. Okay. No, yeah. When it comes to the Broncos, I just don't think that Bo Nix is the answer. Okay. So I have to leave them in this bottom tier where their Super Bowl window is locked shut. Okay. You can have the best coach ever. And I have a profound amount of respect for Sean Payton. But if your quarterback stinks, then you aren't going to win anything. Okay, like you could have the best offensive line in the NFL. Andy Reid could be the head coach. You could have the 4 best receivers. But if I'm playing quarterback, man, we're toast. Okay, we are. And right now, the Broncos just don't have a good enough quarterback to be in a different tier. Next on the list, the New England Patriots. The Patriots have the lowest over-under win total in the NFL this year. Okay, they might have their new quarterback of the future in Drake May. I like him, but there are a lot of other issues on this roster. Okay, they don't have a ton of weapons. The offensive line is meh. The defense is fine, right? There's a lot of just fine on this Patriots roster. And I don't know if Gerard Mayo is going to be a good head coach or not. So that Super Bowl window has to remain locked until Gerard Mayo, proves that he can coach. If he can coach, then hey man, we may move him up a tier, right? If he can coach and if Drake May can play, but until that's proven, that Super Bowl window stays locked. Next, the Titans. I think the Titans are going to be the worst team in the AFC South this year. I don't think Will Levis is very good. I think he's erratic. I think he's going to throw a lot of interceptions. Yes, he's got a big arm. I think he trusts his big arm a little bit too much at times, right? So that's going to lead to some turnovers. He's also not incredibly accurate. He only completed 59% of his passes last year. It's not very good. Okay, the Titans also have a rookie head coach. And when you look at their roster, there are a lot of names that pop out, a lot of names that right? You're like, oh, they have Tony Pollard, but then you realize Tony Pollard's been around the block for a bit. Then like, oh, they have Calvin Ridley. Yeah, the guy who wasn't very good in Jacksonville last year, that guy. You're like, oh, but they have DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins, he's an older fella. It's like, oh, but dude, Jamal Adams, former number 4 overall pick, that guy can play. Nah, man, he's like 35, 34. He's an old safety. Okay, so when I look at the Titans, they're old with a bad quarterback, with a coach that I don't know if he's going to be good or not. Next on the list, with their Super Bowl window firmly locked shut, the Raiders. The Raiders don't have their quarterback of the future. They're doing a Colts thing right now. Band-Aid quarterbacks, baby. Aiden O'Connell, Band-Aid quarterback. And if he doesn't work out, we have Gardner Minshew, Band-Aid quarterback. Okay, and look, this Super Bowl window for the Raiders is going to remain locked until they can find a young quarterback that they can actually build around. Okay, next for the Saints. The Saints are once again going to be bad. Dennis Allen probably should have been fired already. Okay, he doesn't really seem like he can coach. Their quarterback's 33-year-old Derek Carr. It's not exactly the guy you want to build around. The Saints aren't even the best team in their division, and they're in the worst division in the NFL. So that Saints Super Bowl window, this thing is staying locked. It's locked up. Next on the list, the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers, man, they've got pieces that I like, but you aren't winning a Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield as your quarterback. You aren't. Okay, the Buccaneers, to me, feel very similar to how the Vikings felt when they had Kirk Cousins. It's like, hey, like they've got some good players. Mike Evans. I like their defense, but you don't have the guy at quarterback that can take you over the top. And that's really what the Buccaneers are missing. Obviously, they had that with Tom Brady, and they won a Super Bowl. But they don't have that anymore. So that Super Bowl window has been locked down. Next on the list, or in this tier, the Seattle Seahawks. I love the Seahawks' new head coach. I think Mike Macdonald is going to be one of the best young coaches in the NFL this year. I think we're going to be very impressed with him. I know I was impressed with the way that he coached in Baltimore last year as the defensive coordinator. But they're in a pretty similar boat as the Buccaneers. The best coach in the NFL, you can have a great defense, but I just don't think you're winning multiple playoff games with Geno Smith as your starting quarterback. Next here in this tier with the Super Bowl window locked shut, it's the Steelers. Mike Tomlin should just leave Pittsburgh. Okay, they aren't going to win more than 9 games this year. They're probably going to win 9 because Mike Tomlin is a good coach. But here's the thing. You got old Russell Wilson. Okay, and it feels like Sean Payton squeezed every last drop out of him in Denver last year. So you're either going to play him or you're going to play Justin Fields, who hasn't been good. Yes, I know he can run. I know he's dynamic. I know he's fast and all those things. But look, if you can't throw the ball on time and on target, then you can't play quarterback in the NFL. And that's where Justin Fields resides right now. Okay, like the Steelers are going to continue to have a good defense with Minkah Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt and those dudes. And they signed Patrick Queen, who's going to be awesome at linebacker. But at some point, they've got to find, a good quarterback, right? When they had Big Ben, they were good, right? They had the Super Bowl window open, and they capitalized on it one year. But as of right now, that thing's locked shut. Next on the list, the Browns. I like a lot about the Browns roster. I do. But I have no faith whatsoever in Deshaun Watson. Okay? Like I said, this roster is pretty solid. Okay, I like the defense. They got Myles Garrett. They've got dudes who can get after the passer. They've got good corners. I like their offensive line. They can run the football. But Deshaun Watson's been terrible. Okay, he hasn't been good. Right? And until either Deshaun Watson returns to the Deshaun Watson of old, or until the Browns find a different quarterback to actually build around, that Super Bowl window is going to stay locked. Next on the list, the Falcons. The Falcons are such an interesting case. And it's really made me adjust the way that I look at ownership in the NFL. Arthur Blank is 81. Okay, he bought the Falcons not that long ago. Look, I think when you're 81, you know that you're going to die sooner rather than later, right? And if you own a football team, who wants to die with a crappy football team? Seriously, like Arthur Blank, at the age of 81, just wants his team to win some games on Sunday. Right? He wants to bring his grandkids up to the box. He wants them to have a good time. He wants them to win. He wants to maybe host a playoff game or two. And then, he's cool. Okay? And I know that because they went and got Kirk Cousins. Okay? They just want to be above average, win some games, and go home happy. Right? Because of that, their Super Bowl window, it's shut. It just is. The Falcons, man, if you got Kirk Cousins playing quarterback, I just don't think that you're going to do a ton of great things. Next, the Cowboys. That's right, Cowboys. Super Bowl window, firmly locked shut. They have no chance whatsoever at winning the Super Bowl, and there's a pretty decent chance that this is the beginning of the decline of the Dallas Cowboys. There is too much drama in that building. Dak Prescott wants a new deal. He wants to be paid $60 million a year. CeeDee Lamb wants to be the highest paid receiver in the NFL. Micah Parsons wants to be the highest paid edge rusher or just defender in the league, and he probably should be. Okay? And the Cowboys don't have the money for it. Okay? And they also don't have a great head coach, Mike McCarthy. Congratulations. You got to coach Aaron Rodgers, and he took you to a Super Bowl. Congratulations. Okay? And also, Dak Prescott, not good enough. Been in the league over a decade. Just won 2 playoff games. That's it. Okay, I'm sorry, but the Cowboys, that Super Bowl window is firmly shut. Next tier, trying to crowbar the window open. So these are teams with some young players, maybe a young emerging quarterback. Maybe they've shown flashes of things in the past. They've just been missing a couple pieces, and they may potentially have those now. So first on this list, I have the New York Giants. I find the New York Giants fascinating. I think that if Malik Neighbors is good immediately, then I'd be tempted to actually move them up a tier. And this is because I have a lot of respect for Brian Dable. I think he's one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. Okay, I saw him find ways to win in Buffalo, right? He's a large part of why Josh Allen has emerged into this, top 2 quarterback in the NFL, right? A lot of that is because of Brian Dable. And then in New York, I saw him show up in year 1 and win a road playoff game with Daniel Jones. I've seen Daniel Jones win a road playoff game. Okay, now they've had a lack of explosiveness at wide receiver, and that's why Malik Neighbors is important for them this year. If he can provide that over-the-top threat, then they could be decently good. Okay, they've added some edge rushers in the draft. Kayvon Thibodeau coming off the edge, heading into his 3rd year. I think, he's a good player. Of all the teams in this, in this tier, I like them. I like kind of where the Giants are headed. That's why I've got them with the crowbar in hand, trying to crowbar that window open. Next tier on this tier of trying to crow the Super Bowl window open, the Vikings. I think they're about to crack the window open. I think Kevin O'Connell's a great coach, a good coach, maybe not a great coach. I think he's a good coach. He won games with Kirk Cousins and a bad defense last year. And then to fix the defense, he hired Brian Flores. Okay, one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. They're only going to improve and get better. If J.J. McCarthy can be a guy, then they will quickly be back in the mix of, competing to potentially play in the NFC championship game. Next here on my crowbar in hand, trying to crack the Super Bowl window open, are the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals have a good coach in Jonathan Gannon. I think that the Cardinals got better every week last year. You saw steady improvement, which is usually the sign of a good coach, right? And that was in spite of their starting quarterback, Kyler Murray, not being available every week. He only played 8 games. I like Kyler Murray. I know he's a little small, but I saw him win games with Cliff Kingsbury as his head coach. And I don't think Cliff Kingsbury is that great of a head coach. I don't. Now they're bringing in a new guy in Marvin Harrison Jr. Should add another level to this passing game. Once again, I like Jonathan Gannon. I think he's a good defensive-minded head coach, and they're going to be good very soon. Next tier, on my tier of trying to crack the Super Bowl window open, I have the Indianapolis Colts. This is where they fall on the list. And I think the Colts are a little closer than what we all realize. Okay, like if Anthony Richardson's good, then they're going to crack this window open. Okay, Shane Steichen appears to be a good head coach based off of what we saw last year. Okay, where Gardner Minshew completing a pass away from making the playoffs with a backup quarterback and a below-average defense and no Jonathan Taylor for a lot of the year. Okay, if Anthony Richardson can be everything that everyone thinks he's going to be, then they're going to crack that window open this year, and there's going to be a lot of hope and a lot of excitement around the Colts, but it all falls on the shoulders of Anthony Richardson. He has to stay healthy, and he has to obviously play well. Next year on the list, the Los Angeles Chargers. I think the Chargers are a couple good weapons away from swinging the window wide open. Okay, Justin Herbert, awesome young quarterback, highly talented. Every team in the NFL should want him. Unless you have Mahomes or Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Joe Burrow. Everyone else should want him, though. Hey, Jim Harbaugh, he can coach. We saw him win a national title at Michigan last year. We've seen him coach in the Super Bowl before when he was coaching the 49ers. Okay, they've got good defensive players on the roster. They just need a few weapons, and when that happens, they'll be one of the better teams in the league. Final team in this tier of trying to crack the window open, I have the Bears. The Bears, for the first time since 2006 when they lost to the Colts in the Super Bowl, they appear to have things in order. They have a quarterback. They've got weapons. They've got a bit of a pass rush. Question is, can Matt Eberflus coach? If he can, then they will move out of this tier rather quickly. If he can't, then he'll be fired, and the Bears will be hopefully moving in a positive direction from there. New tier, there is a crack in the window. Okay, this is a team where it's like if they ended up in the conference title game, you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. That's kind of surprising, but not overwhelmingly surprising. And to open this tier, this is where I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like Trevor Lawrence. Okay, I think he's a good guy. I think he's a good player. I'm sure he's a good guy as well. I don't really know. But I think he's a good quarterback. I thought that his receivers didn't help him out a ton last year. Several drops, especially in, the end zone. But either way, from what we've seen from Trevor Lawrence, I like where he's at. I've seen him come back from down big in the playoffs and win. I've seen Doug Peterson win a Super Bowl as a head coach with Nick Foles as his quarterback. Okay, whether you like Trevor Lawrence or not, I think you would agree with me that Trevor Lawrence is better than Nick Foles. Okay, the Jaguars, they have some good defensive pieces. Josh Allen really gets after the quarterback. They just extended one of their corners over the weekend. Now, if they won the AFC South this year and appeared in the AFC Championship game, I don't think people would be all that surprised. Next on the list, the Rams. Their Super Bowl window remains at least cracked open at a minimum as long as Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford are there. Okay, Sean McVay is the second best coach in the NFL behind Andy Reid, and Matthew Stafford is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Okay, the offense is going to continue to be good as long as Stafford, McVay, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua are all there. The questions for me fall on the defensive side of the football, which they addressed heavily during the draft, going out, drafting not one, but two defensive linemen, both from Florida State. If they can just have some of these defensive selections hit, then they're going to be elite rather quickly. Next year on this list with a cracked open Super Bowl window, it's the Miami Dolphins. Tua, Mike McDaniels, and the rest of this Dolphins offense, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, all these dudes, they can score, okay? And when you can score at the rate that the Dolphins do, then you can beat anyone, okay? And they could make a Super Bowl run if things went perfectly in their favor. They would have to be the one seed in the AFC to have a chance, because when Tua is your quarterback, you're not going on the road and winning in Buffalo. You're not going on the road in January and winning in Kansas City. We saw that last year. They have to be a one seed to have a chance because they just don't play very well in cold weather. It could happen, though, because they should once again be a good team. Next on the list, the Packers. I almost put them in the open window tier where that Super Bowl window is wide open, but I've only seen 1 year from Jordan Love. Okay, and I would rather be 15 minutes late to the party than 15 minutes early. If he can just repeat how he played at the end of last year, then that window's going to be wide open. They have a good defense. I think Matt LaFleur's a good coach. They've got some weapons. The question is, can Jordan Love continue to have the success that he had late in the year last year after Thanksgiving? Next year on the list, the New York Jets. The Jets window is cracked and closing. It's all dependent upon Aaron Rodgers. I like Robert Saleh. I think he's a good coach. I don't think he's a great one, right? He's this defensive-minded guy who has consistently put good defenses on the field for the Jets. And look, if you're a defensive-minded head coach, you better put out good defenses. And if you're an offensive-minded head coach, you better put out some good offenses at a minimum. And that's what I think Robert Saleh has done. He's just fallen victim to Zach Wilson being his quarterback and Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles. Okay, if Rodgers can just stay healthy and be good, doesn't even have to be great, then this Jets team is going to be tough to beat. Next, the Philadelphia Eagles. This was really tough. I wanted to put the Eagles in the window as open tier, but I couldn't. The Eagles are fascinating to me. They have a lot of talent. There's a lot of questions around Nick Sirianni. His coordinators leave, and all of a sudden they aren't very good. I wouldn't say they weren't very good, but they struggled in some areas. Part of the struggles was Jalen Hurts wasn't as good with Shane Steichen leaving. And the reason why I think I landed on the Eagles being in this, the window is cracked tier, as opposed to the Super Bowl window being wide open, is I just have more questions about the Eagles than I do answers, which is concerning. Final tier, the window is open. These are teams that if they won the Super Bowl, I don't think we would all be very surprised. Okay, the Bills. Bills have the second best quarterback in the NFL. I like Buffalo. Okay, Josh Allen has beaten everyone except for the guy that no one can beat, Patrick Mahomes. Right? I'm not going to knock them for that. I think they're going to be better this year than they were last year. I like Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator. Okay, he's a good play caller who isn't going to overly rely upon Josh Allen to make plays. Okay, I think that when Joe Brady became the offensive coordinator last year, the Bills really kind of took a turn for the better. They started to run the ball more, right? That allowed Josh Allen to not have to be Superman every play. And that's important for these guys, because Josh Allen can be Superman 5 or 6 times a game and win one for you. But if he has to be Superman, 20 times a game, then you're going to run into some issues. I like Keon Coleman. I like their tight ends, so I think he's going to have a decent amount of players to throw to as well. Next here on the list, the Bengals. Joe Burrow is one of the 4 best quarterbacks in the NFL when he's healthy. Okay, that's the only question surrounding him and this Bengals team. Can they stay healthy? Okay, if they can, then they're going to have a chance to raise the Lombardi Trophy. Joe Burrow, Tom Brady, those are the only 2 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Okay, watch out for Cincy. They're bringing back T. Higgins. They're really going for it this year. I'm excited to see kind of what they put together on the field. Next, the Texans. Yes, the Texans Super Bowl window is wide open. DeMeco Ryans can coach. C.J. Stroud's that dude. Okay, he was a top 10 quarterback in the NFL last year. And most importantly, he's on a rookie contract. That means the Texans have extra money to throw around at other positions. That's why they can afford Stephon Diggs this year. Okay, in addition to C.J. Stroud being on a rookie deal, so was Will Anderson, who I think, won rookie. He was the rookie defensive player of the year last year. Okay, like they've got extra money to throw around because their key players are all on rookie deals. Watch out for the Texans, not only this year, but really over the next 3 or 4 years. Next on the list, the Lions. The Lions are awesome. I love watching the Lions play. I love Dan Campbell. I like Jared Goff. The Super Bowl window for the Lions is wide open, especially if they can continue to keep their coordinators, because they have 2 great coordinators with weapons and a good defensive line and a good offensive line. The Lions might be the best team in the NFC this year. They might have the best roster in the NFC this year. Like that's how good they are. Okay, so watch out for the Lions. They're going to be tough. Wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if we saw them raise the Lombardi Trophy this year. 3 teams left, pretty easy. The Ravens. Ravens undoubtedly belong in this category. They have great personnel on both sides of the ball. John Harbaugh, I think he's a good head coach. They just need for Lamar Jackson to actually play well in the playoffs, something that he's struggled to do over these past few years. The 49ers, obviously in this tier as well. They continue to have one of the best rosters in the NFL every year. I still have my questions about Brock Purdy. I think he's fine. And I don't think fine quarterback play beats Mahomes and the Chiefs or whoever comes out of the AFC, because whoever comes out of the AFC is going to have a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. Finally, the Chiefs, best coach in the NFL, best quarterback in the NFL. Their window remains wide open until one of those guys leaves, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon. They're having too much fun in Kansas City, putting rings on their fingers. So that is my NFL window of opportunity tiers.